So today we are going to talk about dynamic business principles. The author is Bob Pillay, and he's going to tell you his experience through this book. You know, when I think of business, I have seen so many people who start the business with the 100% motivation, and then a year later,
80% of the businesses actually end up that way, and the other 20%, it all depends on at what phase. If they don't continue to grow and enforce and know the foundation, actually disappear as well from that. So the very small number of percentage that the business actually survive and thrive, and they all lack the basic foundation of business knowledge. A lot of people start the business because they're good at doing a particular thing, but they lack the business skills.
Have you had any failure in life? Looking at the principles that you spoke about, it will be really helpful for the students. Hi everyone, I'm Reena Augustine from Indoz Television. Here we are with Bob Pillay, who is the founder of Cornerstone Law Offices and also has published a book which will help you grow in business. Hi, Bob.
Hello, Reena. How are you going?
Good. You know, when I think of business, I have seen so many people who start the business with the 100% motivation, and then a year later, 2 years later, the company is closed.
It's yes, it is so true. 80% of the businesses actually end up that way. And the other 20%, it all depends on at what phase. If they don't continue to grow and enforce and know the foundation, actually disappear as well from that. So the very small number of percentage that the business actually survive and thrive, and they all lack the basic foundation of business knowledge. Not the skill set, but the business knowledge.
And that's what your book is about?
Yep, exactly. It's about the application of your knowledge into your business.
So today we are going to talk about dynamic business principles. The author is Bob Pillay, and he's going to tell you his experience through this book. Hello, Bob. So, first of all, I wanted to ask you, how long have you been in this industry?
Okay, so we'll come back to the book a little bit later on, but I'll talk a little bit more about the business industry holistically. My experience goes from different areas, from training to manufacturing, and then into aerospace and defense. And currently I'm doing my consulting and also a professional services business, which is the law firm Cornerstone Law Offices. So it comes from various industries and various areas. So collectively, I could say, well, I started in this space. I'm not going to give my age, but I've been working in this space for about 25 to 30 years collectively in this space, yeah. And
you have actually lived in USA?
Yes, I have lived and worked there for about 6 years in the aerospace and defense industry. And it was interesting and exciting times for me, especially when you're in your 30s and early 40s. You want to do things and see bigger industries, bigger opportunities. And that was amazing for me. It took me places, not only within US, but also overseas, Switzerland and Germany, and work with multinational companies.
Mm-hmm. So the dynamic business principles, this book, how long did it take for you to write?
The actual written component, and this is a question a lot of people ask, how long did it take to write a book? So Reena, I'm going to explain the writing component. The writing component only took me, by the time I structured it and put it on the paper, about 9 to 12 months But the background of what I'm putting in there is my collection of the industry experiences, the businesses that I've worked with, the models and the principles that actually worked. So those were the principles that I used for my consulting work. So putting that together in a book is more a structured approach. And it took me about, like I said, about a year to actually put it together into something that is publishable.
Okay, I have a question for you. So the question is, have you had any failure in life?
Of course.
Oh, really?
Of course.
I see you as this most successful man here in Queensland.
And I would be lying. I would be lying, and I think any successful business person, you ask them, they always grew from the failure. And this is what in one of the principles that we talk about it is finding the root cause corrective action. In other words, you're finding a root of your failure, and that's where you learn of what to build on, what are the opportunities, what are the risks, and how to actually identify that. One of the failures I would say is contract negotiation. So there was a lot of things in businesses. I won't name the business, but when we're negotiating contracts, a simple thing like a dollar value, then dollars and now dollars, can result in a collapse of a contract. So how do we actually phrase that? What does it mean? And when we identify those risks and those mistakes, it's your ability to adapt and grow. If we didn't learn from our mistakes, we wouldn't be where we are today. Like our childhood, we always fall. We know something is hot, not to touch it because we burn. And if you don't know those, if businesses don't learn from their failures or they have a very smooth ride, when things happen, they won't know what to do. Okay, wow. So that is one of the reasons and one of the things I always talk about. So yes, I had lots of failures within teams in a smaller, manageable portions.
Mm-hmm. So what is this? So when you say you had the failure, but the negotiation, the contracts, agreements, everything has to be cleared in the start.
Correct. Everything we do, there should be a risk management process, which means we identify what those failures may be, and we try and mitigate those risks around that. For example, if we wake up in the morning, we know we have to get out of the bed and go to the bathroom, have a shower. We may fall, right? Now, if you look at that, the chances of falling is quite high. But we naturally do risk mitigation by making ourselves get up straight so we don't just roll out. We have bath mats. We have anti-slip floor tiles. Okay, all these are risk mitigation processes that's been put in place. Now, every now and then, you will rush through and try and open the door and you'll slip and fall. Those are the mistakes that happens in businesses. You may have the perfect risk mitigation plan. You may have everything ironed out, but there will be occasions. What happens when you do have a fall in the shower? Okay? And what happens when that happens in your business, if you can relate it, whichever way your product and services may be, what other things? So yes, those failures will then say, oh, I fell and I grabbed the rail, but the rail broke. Next time, I'll have to make sure that the rail is not attached to a glass, but to a brick wall or something a bit stronger.
Oh, what an example. I love that.
I just picked that up.
But it's so true. It's so true.
Getting in a car is, we calculate this risk and we manage it in ourselves subconsciously. But when it comes to business, people don't do that.
Yeah. I still remember I think it's 11 to 12 years ago, you told me, Reena, whatever you learn and put it in the papers, make it a file, because tomorrow when you get out of the office and the bus hits you, the business should go on. I'm like, wow, that is so true. You're here, you're not there. Everything has to go smoothly.
Correct.
I love that example, and I still remember that. I think it's 11 years ago. It's crazy how...
You're right. Yeah. It's 11, 12, coming up to 12 years.
Yeah. So I still remember that. I'm like, wow, that's a good example. So that's how the business runs. So now, what about the emotional factor here? Because I have been told you have to be like a Gujarati, because Gujaratis are known for business, not like a South Indian, because South Indians can only study. They are not good in business. So I always was like, oh my God, how do I balance? Now, emotions and business, can they go together?
Yes, they can.
Okay.
So the word dynamic, and that's I selected that word so it's not static. So I'm going to reference to Gujarati and the South Indians. To me, that's a static statement because traditionally that's what happened. So therefore now people think that if you're not from either group, you cannot. No. The way to personally grow and the way to grow business is to be dynamic, which means you're always chopping, changing, moving. Okay? So one of the first principles in that book is knowing your strength and your development areas. Personally, because a lot of times people have a stigma to say, no, and once again, I'm just going to use your example, because you're from South, you are knowledgeable, you study and you're an engineer, but you're not a business person, right? So that's already been kind of like pushed you in the direction. But you may have the skills of business and how to actually get the best out of business, how to talk to people in the very similar way the Gujaratis would be doing. But because you have been forced and told that you cannot do that, we don't identify who you really are. So the first principle, and the book is put in such a way, because it's meant for people in business. A lot of people start the business because they're good at doing a particular thing, whether they're lawyers, like my wife, or they're great at making coffee, so they start a cafe, or they're chef. But they lack the business skills. And once you identify, a person identifies their strengths and development areas, you know what your development, and the reason I said development areas, I don't call it weakness, because as soon as you say, hey, Reena, that's your weak point in business, or your weak point in personality, then you take it for granted that you don't have the ability. I call it a development area because we can grow in. Just like the Gujaratis can be engineers and the South Indians can be business people, because you can develop.
Yeah.
That takes energy, right? But it's doable. The strength is what you are born naturally, what you can do subconsciously. It's the strength. So identifying that is very important.
Wow, that actually is clear. You can learn.
Yes.
Practice. I remember in Gold Coast, so I went to this family party, and there was this girl, 5-year-old Sienna. She said, let's do the scooter. I'm like, all right, Sienna, I don't do this. I cannot do this. I'm scared, She's like, she turns around and she says, 5-year-old child, practice makes man perfect, Reena. You cannot give up, okay? I'm like, what? What did I just hear?
Exactly.
And that's true. Anything that we do repeatedly, you will learn one day.
Correct. It's coming back to, just like that little girl, falling, practice makes perfect, is falling, learning, struggling, and then you learn, okay? But the thing is, you have to have the desire to be able to say that this is what I want to do. A lot of times people fall off once and they give up.
Yes.
Okay? Now, once again, the question is it the desire that they didn't have, or is it the pain that they couldn't manage because they had one fall and that was it? So in business, when it comes to business, how are we going to deal with it? When it comes to relationships as well, I mean, most of these business principles, I would tell people you can apply that in your relationship as well, whether it be personal relationship or business partners, it works very similar,
Wow.
So yeah, it's a combination of, how you actually work with it. Now, just coming back to strength and development areas, I'm going to go back to your example of the Gujarati and the South Indian. Now, the Gujarati may not have the intellectual engineering skills, but his strength is business. The South Indian has got the engineering, how to develop, how to make, doesn't have it, right? So this is where capacity planning, I know it's one of the terms I use, individuals' capacity is very important. Can each other learn their development areas? Yes. But do you have the capacity to learn it and then use your energy to develop that area? Or you get to the stage and go, you know what, I'm going to start an engineering firm, Mr. Pillay, but I'm going to do everything possible here, but I'm going to get Mr. Gujarati friend to run the business component of it, but I will manage everything else. Okay, so this is where you actually build capacity on something that you already have and knowledge of and strength, and you get people to help you out. So as the business grows, that's where you need to increase your capacity, you need to delegate.
Love that. Love that. Would you want to talk about your book, about the principles, or you want to keep it?
Yeah. So the book itself
Okay.
it's 5 principles.
Okay.
And I think we touched on the first one already. So the way I've structured the book is just strength and development areas. So I talk a little bit about theory, as in, the general knowledge of what that is, and then I talk about the application. So the running of the book goes from a theory component, the general knowledge, so people can understand, and then it comes to how you apply it with the actual business or the people that you're talking to. So the first one is strength and strength and development areas. The second one is the business processes and systems, which if the bus hits you and you're not here tomorrow, how will the business run?
That's right.
Okay, so that is crucial. Now, a lot of times people have a document and it says business process and systems and it's stuck somewhere because they wrote it 10 years ago and they never want to go back. Business process and system is something that, once again, needs to be dynamic. This is what we do. This is how we do it. This is what we use. Okay, so the difference between a process and a system. Process is what you do and the system is how you do it. Okay, which may include technology and computers, whatever.
CRMs. Yeah.
CRMs, okay. Yeah. So those are the systems. The process is, do you pick it up from here and do this? Okay, so those are physical. So those documentation and any business without those is actually doing themselves a disfavor, because the value of the business is worth on documented processes and systems. Because then you can tell the team members, and the team members will know exactly what to do because it's written step 1, step 2, step 3. I normally say, what is the instruction of making a cake in your business? If you don't have that, your business doesn't have process system. Can I continue on?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Okay, so the first is, we talk about the second one. The third one is data collection and forecasting, or data analysis and forecasting. Without data, without how many times you're going to slip off and fall on your tiles, you don't know whether the tiles is strong enough to hold the moisture. Data collection is very important, especially nowadays. More important than anything else. I know we're talking to Lovey.
Yeah.
Numbers. What does those numbers mean? And I ask him, Lovey, was there anything that actually caused an increase in those views? Those data collection is very important because it drives your energy. Once again, without data, we don't know what the business process is. You don't know where to invest it. And forecasting basically means, and I'm going to go back to Lovey and say what an awesome job you're doing, but what is your now forecasting? Because if you've got so many hits and views, what are you going to be forecasting for the next 6 to 12 months? And what it would look like? What are you going to do about that? Okay. That is very important.
All right. So I'm going to give you an example. Yeah. So what I understand from this, let's take an example that we do a campaign and that campaign works very well. And then we've got a lot of clients contacting us. Yep. So you mean to say that we follow what we actually did here. For the next forecast, what works and what doesn't work.
Yep.
Yeah?
Yep, that's right. Data collection and forecasting. Now, everyone sees this and uses this. In the newer cars, you will see when you fuel up, it'll say full tank, range XYZ, 600 kilometers. Now, that data, to project it, was calculated based on what you were driving previously, how you were driving it, right? So when a driver changes, that 600 kilometers may be 500 kilometers because I drive like a sports car. So therefore, it will use more fuel.
Yeah.
So it changes. So data collection is very important, particularly in business. You want to know how much, if it's manufacturing business, what's the scrap rate, how much wastage, how much return, who are returning this product, why are they returning it, right? How many people do I need now in that department? How many people will I need to go and repair and get my orders back up in a cafe? How much meat, how much vegetables do we keep in a restaurant, in a cafe situation? It's no use ordering lots and then, So there's various examples. And like I said, I'm using palatable examples, but obviously it can get technical depending on the size of the business. Yeah.
Got it. So spoken about three.
Yeah. The fourth one is quality and continuous improvement.
Okay.
If you've collected the data, you know your viewers are not right, the vegetables keeps going off after 2 days, okay, we need to make sure that the product is of quality. I will go back and find out why is my vegetables, previously it was good, now it's going off in a cafe. In a manufacturing, why is these mistakes happening? Why does the fence keep breaking all the time? So continuous improvement based on what quality means. Okay, a lot of times people don't know what quality means for them and their product.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I remember the one example I can give you is at Cornerstone, you told me that, Reena, we've got clients, but do you have the capacity?
Yes.
I said, well, of course I can do. But if you do not have the capacity, the quality will go down.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I loved that question. And that's when I realized, I thought when the clients come, let's take it.
Yeah.
Let's do it. But yes, in 24 hours, you can only do so much.
Yeah.
So what is your capacity so that you can give them a good quality?
Exactly. So quality is very important. It's a combination of, we talk about what is a high standard of work, is based on quality and value.
Yeah.
Okay. So, when people pick up something, they will pay, for example, a pen, they'll pick up a pen and will pay $25 for one pen, but they will struggle to pay $5 for the other, right?
Yes.
So what is the difference? They both write the same, okay? You could get the message across. So if you can break that one down, you could see the standard, it's a high standard pen that feels good, lasts longer, it's a lot easier on your hand, okay? That's a high standard pen, which is quality, the clicker doesn't break and the ink doesn't dry out, okay?
Yeah.
So the value of that, people understand, is $25 is the value, as opposed to $5.
Yeah.
Okay, so understanding the value is very important,
I love
which is a
that.
combination of those. Yeah.
Love that. And
go
yes,
ahead.
and the last one, yeah?
Last one, we kind of touched it earlier on, which is risk and opportunities management. And we started off with that risk. No matter what you do, if you cannot identify 2, 3, 4, 5 risk in your business, and I normally, based on my 5-step process, I say, identify 5 things in your business that are risk, okay? And it could be different areas, it could be in different groups. What would be the number 1 risk, the number 2 risk, number 3 risk? And I'll give you an example. If I'm running a manufacturing place, maybe the number 1 risk is not the team members, not the quality, but it could be the supplier that provides me with the steel.
Yep.
Okay, so if he can't provide me with the steel that I need, there is no way I will be able to manufacture. So then it talks about risk management. So how are you going to manage that risk, Bob? Okay, what do I do? Now, if my steel can't get here, then you can work on it. Okay, you can ask the supplier, what are the contingencies that you will be able to continue to provide me this? If they can't have, once again, they would have done their risk management as well. If they can't provide an answer, my option would be to go and find an alternate supplier. When Bob Pillay can't provide, maybe Jimmy can provide, okay? So those are the mitigation plans you need to have.
Is there like a backup plan?
It's like a backup plan,
Yeah.
okay? And a lot of people have a backup plan, but they don't know what the plan is. Or the person who's supposed to be the backup doesn't even know that I'm the backup person, right? It's very important to have those communication. Mm-hmm. Now, this is my favorite area as well, and I kept it till last, because every risk, if you identify in your business, in your relationship, in your sports club, at home, whatever it may be, should always, if mitigated well, give you an opportunity. Personal one, right? I know my wife is grumpy, the risk of having a marriage breakup can be very highly likely here because she's grumpy, I haven't taken her out for dinner and so on, right? So in my mind, I'm going, what should I do? How do I mitigate this risk? Take her out for dinner, okay? and listen to her, what that might be. Okay. So now what I have done is maybe identified an opportunity from that to say, okay, in order for my risk to constantly come up, I'm going to be taking out for a dinner, I'm just saying this, once every weekend on a Saturday, dinner. Now that is an opportunity for me to also talk to her about other things. Okay. So risk and opportunities go together. Finding the steel supplier.
Yes.
Maybe in a process of finding this supplier, I found out that the quality of this product is a lot better and it's a lot cheaper. So it actually gave me an opportunity as a part of doing the risk management. So there's lots of examples that I've also used in my book, and I workshop it with business people to identify what those risks are and how you mitigate.
So Bob, as you mentioned, that these 5 principles you can actually apply in your relationships too. So can you please give me each example for it too?
Yep, no problem. And that's exciting because typically in business there's families involved, there's partners involved. So I normally, if I know that's the situation within the business, when I go to consult some of those, I normally put the business away. Put the business aside and start looking at the personalities of people, okay? Hey, Reena, based on, and there's certain tools that I use, and normally, because I've been doing this for a while and used this in aerospace defense world, I have the ability to identify people's personalities by having a conversation for 2 to 3 minutes, and I'll know exactly how people operate, okay? And that gave me the strength to negotiate contracts and talk to other people, other suppliers. So when it comes to relationship, identifying if you have a plan, if I wanted to do something, wanted to go on a holiday, I know my personality, I know I can take, this is what I want to do. But how do I sell it to my wife and my partner? Okay. So I have to understand how my partner, my wife, or, husband, how they operate. What do they like? What's the personality type? If I just say, honey, we're going on a holiday and this is where we're going, I'm ready and we'll go in 2 weeks, because that's how I operate. My partner on the other side, you may think, I don't know where this place is. I don't even know, because what kind of culture, food, and so on. So I know your personality type is more visual. So I would actually get some photos, some flyers, some food, some scenery, and just say, hey, look at this. Isn't this a beautiful place? Wouldn't it be awesome to go there one day? Okay, get the feel. So now I'm not saying this is what we're doing and this is how we're going to do it, because I've figured out the cost, the time, and so on, and this is perfect time. Even though I went through all the details and say, this is the plan, you don't like the plan, you want to know the soft side of it, where things are at. That's how you actually get your partners on board.
Got it.
That's just one example. If your partner is getting angry, every time you say and talk to your partner and the other side is getting angry, the partner is getting angry, it's not that they're getting angry, they probably don't understand, because I'm talking numbers and calculations and formulas, or could be the other way around. I'm talking all hairy-fairy stuff, and you could be someone that likes facts and data. And you probably say, Bob, stop it. I don't want to hear all hairy-fairy stuff. This is too much. So I have to now talk to you with facts and data. Hey, Reena, 25% of this is that, and because we lost so much in the energy bill, I think we need to have solar in our house, because now it's going to save this much. Not that my roof is not going to be the same. What color do you want? Because that's 2 different things.
Yes.
So understanding the people, understanding the way they communicate, and the environment they communicate is very important.
Ooh,
Environment is very important. Sometimes you want to have a conversation at the dinner table. Sometimes you want a conversation while you're walking. Sometimes you want to have a conversation at a meeting setup, because then that's serious. Okay? So understand, you have to be a chameleon and adapt the other person's personality to make the best outcome that you want. Remember, it's what's in the best interest of you. And how do we actually convey that to the other party to have a win?
Oh my God. So then my next question to you is, not everybody can do it.
No.
Negotiate, change like chameleon, change their personality in front of people, introvert, extrovert, ambivert. You can't be like...
No.
So what's the solution?
The solution is what you as Reena would like to be the outcome from this interview or from your meeting or from your relationship. What is that you want? That is the outcome you're looking for, and you do everything possible to communicate to the other party and have a win.
So I like that, Anna.
You like that?
That's so good.
Yep.
That is such a good chat. Alrighty. So the 5 principles, anything that you would like to describe in relationship?
Okay, we talked about the first one, obviously,
Yes.
the knowing, and this is where it starts. You have to, even in business, you have to know who you are, what you made. You could be a different person at work, but different person at home. Okay.
Then I have a question. Last time, I remember everything we speak about and do. So you told me, Reena, when you are speaking with a person, if the table is in between, it's different.
Exactly.
There's kind of a safe place or a barrier, but if the table is not there, people feel uncomfortable.
Yep.
It's like direct.
Yep.
So, and you mentioned that, Reena, the conversation should be at a dinner table or in the park or a coffee place.
Yep.
I know that everybody you meet, you prefer to go to a coffee place.
Yep.
Why is that?
A coffee place is a safe place, it's a neutral place, and also it gives the opportunity for both parties to have a different environment.
Okay.
Right? So otherwise, if I go to other party's business or in a boardroom, it becomes very mechanical and very clinical. So our brain is amazing. When there's a change of environment, when there's different smell, different people, you get a different energy. And that conversation is meant to be a conversation for that spot, for that time at the coffee shop, or could be while you're walking, okay? And you wouldn't be having the same conversation while you're walking, because it'll have a stigma. Walking equals meeting, we talk about this, which is no different than having a meeting in the boardroom, okay? So you need to find time and a place, and that can vary. I do not go and have the same meeting at the same place all the time. I change the environment, both for me and for the person that I'm meeting as well.
All right.
Yeah. So that's the the environment does make a difference. The other thing I also wanted to do, if it's your development area, I'm talking to my wife all the time, and I'm trying to adapt to her style, right? I get stressed because now it's my development area, and I'm just using this as an example. It's not my strength. I have to put everything in visual, and I'm a facts and data guy. So now it's taking energy. So a lot of times people forget how to get their energy back. They get sick and tired. They forget to exercise. They forget to do whatever. I normally go to individuals and say, what is your fuel? What fills you up? What actually gives you the energy that you need to do what you're doing? And this relates to people's hobbies, people's interest, and there has to be time dedicated for that, because without that, you can't work with other businesses, you can't work with team members, you won't be able to work with your partner, because you're always giving to try and get the best outcome for what you want, for the company, what the relationship wants, and you get drained because people forget to fuel up, just like a car. You keep driving the car because the car will keep driving, but if you don't stop and fuel up and give it a break for it to cool down, check the levels, check the water, it will eventually die.
That's right. That's right. One more thing I remember from our conversation is we were in the office and you asked me, hey, Reena, if you had all the money in the world, what would you right now do? Like, what would you do? What are your interests?
Yeah.
I really like that, because that's when you find out what you really want to do in life.
Correct.
Right? And that day I realized, okay, what is it that I want to do? Like, of course, I want to make money. I want to do this. But this question, the energy, my eyes lit up because I thought about the thing that I really want to do. But it's so true. Finding out the other person, that what exactly they want from this particular conversation also is very important.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
Wow, yeah. And then moving on.
So just going back to that, money, a lot of people who are driven by money is really awesome. But my question comes back to what drives, the what, and why. So if I gave you, for example, one of my friend's son always said, I want to be a billionaire. And I asked my mate, I said, ask him why. Because that why will give you a breakdown of what that actually means. It may not be $1 billion. It may be $10,000 that he needs to go and spend to do whatever, right? We sometimes are driven by objects and a perceived value, which could be completely different, and we start running in the wrong direction,
Wow.
So it's always what you're built with, what energy, and if you do it passionately, if you use your hobbies and skills and enjoy life, those $1 billion will come, so you could do more of those, okay? But if you keep driving, I need this much, and this is what I need, and you forget why, you will be struggling. And what happens when you get that, then what you do?
Like
What do you do?
Yeah, that's right.
What do you do?
Like the lottery winners.
Exactly. What do you do?
Yeah.
So it's important to know why you want that, because if I say, hey, I want $1 billion, and when I get to my $1 billion, I could go and set up so many orphanages, then that is the driver.
Yes.
Okay. So that becomes the driving force. It's not that I want $1 million or $1 billion. I want to have orphanages set up. And everything from there on that I do drives me to doing things that may get me the dollar to be able to set it up. So I know it's a subtle change, but always figure out why you're doing it.
Purpose,
yeah.
Wow, I like that. So Bob, why did you call this book as a 5-step process for your business growth and profitability?
Yeah. That's a fundamental of what I do as part of the consulting work. And if you have a look at the strongest structure is a triangle, with 3. You can sit on a, one-legged stool, very uncomfortable. You stand and it falls, right? But if you have a 2-legged stool, okay, you stand, it may, depending on who and what is leaning on, it will survive. Now you have a 3-legged stool, you stand up, it'll stay standing, right? You can put some weight on it.
Yeah.
Okay, 4 and 5. So those principles, the 5-step, looks at risk management. So even though you focus these 5 steps there, if you can just focus on 3 and do it well within your business, chances are that your stool is going to stand up. Your business is going to stand up. Okay. And if you do all like a pentagon, all 3 of them, if now you've got sustainability, okay? So you're not only growing, 3 means your growth, 5 means sustainability, which basically means you can switch from one area to the other. While the other parts may be struggling, you can switch around. And this is where the application of those 5 principles comes into play. Anyone can start a business and grow a business. And coming back to the initial statement that you made, a lot of people collapse. The business collapse. They don't have the energy, whatever it may be that they lack. Sustaining the business is the game. Okay, you can start a coffee shop today, and you can grow it from selling 1 coffee, and this is the definition of growth: from 1 coffee to 5 coffee. That's the growth. From 5 to 50, right? But can you do it consistently over a period of time? Still maintain your lease, your equipment, and so on. A lot of people, when it comes to running business, they forget about sustainability. They grow and start, and 2 or 3 years' time, they actually struggle because they haven't done what's called the bottoms up. What is the foundation? What's the the data collection, the analysis, what's the quality, they don't focus on that.
The base.
The base.
Yeah.
So your question of why. So in my previous aerospace and defense industry, including the F-35, I was a program manager and also a risk manager, did a $1 billion contract negotiation. All those principles, both in Australia and in US, were application of real world. And this is why when you look at aerospace, it's built on quality, high standard work. And when you look at defense, it's built on process and systems, okay? So when you combine those aerospace principles and defense principles together, you've got a good knowledge of how to run the business, and not only run a business and grow, but how to sustain it. And those are the principles I apply and share with the business owners who are looking at growing and sustaining it.
I love that. You know, Bob, the best part about us living in Australia is Australia gives us the opportunity to start the business. Right? Not everywhere you find that.
Yeah.
And the support from so many entrepreneurs and mentors. So, to run a business, are mentors very important?
Mentors are very important. Right mentors. A lot of times people get confused on what mentors are. Okay? They can spend a lot of time, and I'll tell you the downside of not having a right mentor. You can have a mentor that will teach you everything about health, and like I said, it's nothing wrong with it, with health, self-care, nutrition, all that, which is very important. But sometimes, if you're running a business and you spend 4 hours with a mentor doing that, and not having the right balance, you will have an impact on your business, right? So what I'm saying is, and say, it's same thing. On the flip side, you could have a mentor who talks at a level that may not be suitable for your business, or at a lower level of growth, and it may not be suitable for something you want to go nationally or internationally. So having a mentor that's suitable with the right balance, and sometimes you may have to get a couple of them, one for health, well-being, and the other one for the business, who will tell you whether you're going in the right direction or not. So yeah, if I answered the question, mentors is very important. I think I know where you're going, because I always used to say, for every mentor, you should have a mentee. Okay, because you learn from people as well. Mentors need mentees as well. Okay, because you always teach other people, not only learn but teach as well. So that's a give and take, and you learn more from your mentee, okay, than from your mentor at times.
Okay? Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So now, I know that you have a consulting business, right? You run workshops. So now, what kind of workshops do you do?
Yes. So there's two components to that. So I go as a consultant. I can go into businesses and look at business analysis, like analyze the business where the improvements can be made, how to get efficiencies out, value stream mapping, lean, quality, all these technical aspect of the business, looking at the costs from bottom-up estimates. So all those kind of where I spend a lot of time within the business. Now, obviously, not many people will be able to have me in that capacity in their businesses. So what I've launched is a Dynamic Business Institute, which is the 5-step process of the book, which I apply if I'm there physically. But this Dynamic Business Institute is a 12-month journey where I take each one of the principles and work with the business owners. It could be face-to-face or on-site or using tech, whether it be video conferencing, and I journey with them and grow over the 12 months as part of the Dynamic Executive Program. And once again, you could have someone who's coming into the business, probably entrepreneur just starting a business, or someone who's already in business for the last, so many years, but they are struggling to sustain it. Yep. Or the third audience would be someone who's looking at boosting their contracts, going into government contracts, looking at certifications where it'll be ISO certification or ESG certification. These are the things that they're looking at and how they can actually get the best out of the team members to be able to do that. So the Dynamic Business Institute, and that's accessible, like I said, if you go to my website, bobpillay.com, there's programs there and there's expression of interest because they're limited the way I operate. I only work with a team of about 10 people within each quarter, and that's a 12-month journey.
I love that. I love that. You know, looking at the principles that you spoke about, it will be really helpful for the students. Why? Because we are not taught about business. We are not taught about how to handle situations in life. We are not taught about how to handle money.
Exactly.
What is tax? Which are like the most important when we grow up and we are like thrown into this world where we are like, I want to do something, but where do I start? I think this book is the one for us to. Awesome.
It's interesting because I gave a copy of this book to one of the lecturers at the university, and he's from manufacturing background, so he looks at strength and data analysis on material science. And he goes, "Oh, aerospace, this will be great," and his mindset is, "Yep, we can use this for manufacturing." And he picked it up and goes, okay, there's a small component of manufacturing, but where do you think this book will fit? And you could see his confusion of, okay, this is about manufacturing, business growth and sustainability, but he's trying to put it in the silos, which is typically what happens in institution and organization where people just do this. If you're studying marketing, you study marketing. If you're studying engineering, you study engineering. If you're studying law, you study law. This book is an awesome guide for people who wants to know business holistically with my aerospace defense experience and also with professional services in the last 12 months. That will give you an overall picture of what to look for.
All righty. So we've learned so much about dynamic business principles and a 5-step in business as well as relationships. So Bob, thank you so much for coming to the studio today. We are really privileged to have you. If you're starting a business, if you're running a business and you're struggling, or you are a university student, you can contact Dynamic Business Institute and enroll now. Go to www.bobpillay.com and also follow Instagram bob.pillay. Thank you so much, Bob.
Thank you, Reena. Thanks for having me.
I love that.